We're live. We're live. Welcome back to the show,
Welcome
everyone.
back, everybody.
I don't know who our top comment's going to be tonight because half the people that watch the show are already a part of the show. So we'll see here who jumps on. Oh, Kyle wins it.
Winner.
Oh, we're up to 6. Bob Tarpey. Travis Murphy's on. And we're probably going to be at 6 the rest of the night because the other 6 are all on here. No, now we're up to 16. Holy smokes, that was quick. Man, oh day. Hi, Robin. Robin's watching. Angel. All right, we're up to 22. Man, this is jumping real quick. Whew. Dave, it's going to be a fun night.
You ain't kidding. I'm super stoked for this. This is going to be a riot.
Yeah. Oh, man, Jim Hudges is in the house. Arkansas combo. All right. Well, we're going to just go ahead and get this whole thing started. So real quick before we get going, not to really put a downer on the night, but if anyone hasn't heard, Jeff Cole from Bees Knees Barbecue passed away. It still kind of has Dave and I a little upset, even though we only got to meet him over this podcast, which honestly, we talk about how great we love this podcast every single week because of the friends it's made us. But that was something we were really looking forward to, going down there and meeting those guys and hanging out with them. And the fact that we got to talk with them and hang out and share a couple laughs was absolutely incredible and something I will honestly never forget to do.
Definitely.
But to kind of, send our thoughts and prayers to Brett and Jeff and his family. And, we'll definitely have to have some laughs here tonight just to celebrate and remember him for sure. But Dave, you want to give a shout out to our special sponsor of the week?
Give a little shout out to boosterbarbecue.com. Check him out for any barbecue needs. He's got rubs, sauces, a whole bunch of goodies. He's actually getting ready to carry the complete line of the Arkansas combo.
Oh, snap.
So check him out. Use a promo code QChat, get you 10% off. Check them out.
That's right.
Good deal.
We'll definitely post more about that as they come, but we'll get started on here tonight. Man, we're going to bring in the Swami. Michael Fay came to me last week with an idea to do well, I'll let him explain it here, but just you guys got to see this here. Michael?
Good evening. Welcome to the Swami Hour, where we will discuss all of the prognostications for 2021 with our elite panel of SCA, KCBS, and BackYard people. First, I want to also add a downer note. I don't know if anybody knows, but Mike Mills of 17th Street Barbecue passed away this morning.
Yes.
So he's another one that will be missed all over. So I hate to say that, but let's just kick it off. Let's get it on. Some of you have seen Carson before. Here I have the envelope here. So let me get the first question out, and here we go.
Well, hold on a sec here, Michael, real quick, not to ruin your traction here, but you want to introduce who we got going on first? Who we got coming on?
Oh, we have the SCA Master of Steak, Rolf Garrett.
Hey, guys.
We have the Queen of the Steak, the Meat Princess herself, Tiffany Patrick Smith.
Yay!
We have BackYard from Mr. Aaron Carey and
Steve.
I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, there he is, cookout coach. And of course, last but not least, but liquored, is Josh Farley from Pig and Whiskey in the Midwest. He's going to be joining us and talking about KCBS. So that's our panel for tonight. The first question, the answer is pig's feet. And the question is, what's Jake Harshman's next call going to be in? Okay.
Pig's feet.
Jake,
Okay.
Jake Marshman is going to get a call on SCA. He worked so hard at it. He's going to get a call.
Okay, well, let's just kick it off.
That's his next call, not his only call. His next call.
Next call. We have a whole list of questions. We're just going to take some, not necessarily in any order. We're going to start with an SCA type of question. If you are an SCA person, please feel free to jump in. If you're not an SCA person, please feel free to jump in. Okay? And the question is, how much luck do you believe there is in competition cooking?
I'll jump in. I tell people when we talk about any competition cooking that you have to be ready to be lucky. So if you're good at what you're doing, if your skill is correct, if your process is good, and all of those other things are in order, then you'll be lucky. But if you're just slapping things together, you'll never be lucky at it.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. I mean, there's definitely some luck in it because you're turning in a piece of meat to 6 people that you don't know how their day went. You know, you always talk about the table of death and the table of angels, which I know that's probably going to be mentioned here beforehand, but you definitely get lucky with, you know, who you get and on where you set. And that's sometimes the most frustrating part of this sport.
I guess
Sorry, y'all. You guys are all way too daggone quiet. Come on.
Well, I guess my question is based on that is, and KCBS has it to a certain degree, but SCA seems to have a much tighter win window than KCBS, where you have to be in a certain very small target area in order to get big numbers in SCA. Anybody comment on that?
Tip?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, in every category, right? I mean, in every criteria, there is a very small window, and some of it is completely random as well, like the compilation score or whatever it is at the end. So yeah, I mean that
Overall impression.
Yeah, overall impression. Yes, overall random score. Yeah, but you're right. You're within a couple degrees of being, 2 points off. It's a little tiny window for a lot of points.
Yeah, it does seem to have gotten to a very, very tight window. Everybody has to have grill grade marks. Everybody has to have certain things. If you don't, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
We've experienced that. We've taken this from KCBS, and we always refer back to Michael Fage and his process is teaching us in his class. So I'm always going to shout out to him. But we thought our process was tight in KCBS. Our process is off the charts in steak, and we try to miss nothing. And it's hard to do. It's not as hard. It seems easy, but it's not easy.
Mike.
Okay.
If I could, I think you're dead on with how tight it is in the SCA, and for exactly the reason that Rolf said. You've got guys like Rolf and guys like Tiffany that are out there that focus on perfecting a single craft. So you can see it sort of in the backyard world where we have 2 meats and 3 meat contests. And when you have a 2 meat contest, that win window can get super tight, just like you mentioned. But once you stretch it out to 3, suddenly the folks start to spread out a little bit. And then, when you step up to Master Series, you add that 4th meat. There's just a lot more plates in the air to get that going. So, I think we still see the same thing in competition barbecue, but you might have to look category by category. And then it falls to who was able to put together the best day is just why the overall doesn't appear like that. But really, if you examine the categories, you probably see about the same thing.
Yeah, excellent point. Yep.
Good point. Okay. We've had our first question. Everybody drink.
Brought to you by Twisted Tea and Miller Lite.
Okay.
Oh, man. No, we run off Crown Royal Vanilla.
For you, Craig and Nathan.
What's your next one, Michael?
Okay, next question is going to be a KCBS question. And it's going to be, the question is, how do you feel about the KCBS 1 meat category?
Ooh.
Hey, Mike, could you explain that? Because I haven't been in it for a little bit, so I don't even know what that precisely is.
Okay, what they're doing now, KCBS has decided to run a one meat category, specifically ribs, on Friday night as an additional entry, an additional meat, and it also counts towards your toy points.
Now,
I liked it right up to that point.
now, the one meat can also be chicken. They've decided that you could also do chicken now too.
Okay, so chicken and ribs. And to me, it seems like what KCBS's plan is to incorporate the backyard guys by letting them do these single meat contests as well as the backyard, because the single meat contests count towards master toy.
Yeah.
There's also a rumor that the reason they're doing this is because they want to have some kind of a dual single meat SCA contest. I honestly don't see that happening because KCBS is so resistive to SCA.
Yeah.
So you don't think they'll do a one meat KCBS competition?
Oh no, they're doing them. They're doing them on Fridays.
Yeah.
So, Mike, are the backyard and the Master Series all involved in that one meat contest?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay. So I kind of like that because it lets backyard guys kind of mix in with allegedly the Masters, but I'm not a big fan of incorporating that into the toy points because it's kind of an offshoot. It's,
Yeah. So I actually competed as a backyarder in one of the two single meat categories or single meat contests I know of that occurred this year in the Mid-Atlantic. And first of all, as a backyarder, we had the KCBS board. It doesn't void a backyard status, but it is very strange that I gained Master Series Team of the Year points. So this all happened, and Josh may know the story, but this all happened because Brent and I were sort of jawing back and forth at each other on some in a Facebook group, and he called me out to come up to Jersey, so I came up to Jersey. And so from my perspective, I was a little bit disappointed because it was sort of a trip where I wasn't going to gain any backyard Team of the Year points, which was the first year last year, and I was really trying to chase those. But from a pure fun perspective of I got to compete against guys that I don't normally get to compete against, and it was just a back and forth. I didn't have anything else to do the day. Brent was cooking a double, so we were over at his site just, poking the bear. And it was a ton of fun. A lot of people do have issues with the Team of the Year points, and I understand that, but that's sort of above my head. From a pure enjoyment, it's a ton of fun. It's very relaxed. It's actually kind of in at a time that's not your typical turn-in time for ribs.
And I personally think that it gives the backyard teams a chance to kind of see how they stack up against some of the pros. And I think it's a good stepping point for them. Okay, am I ready to go? I practiced my two good meats. I got my chicken and my ribs down. Okay, and I played with pork and I played with brisket at home. And I really want to see how my chicken and ribs start doing against the pros before I want to dip my toe into the big pool.
Yeah, exactly. And there's always sort of a question of, as a backyarder, you're never sure if how you're being judged is legitimate, right? Everybody wants to tell you this story of how backyarders are judged softer, or I've actually heard of the other way, backyarders are judged harder. But you're sitting there going, everybody took a KCBS judging class, and there's only one. So when you get to go in and just everybody, pros and backyards, are in the same pool, you get to look at your scores, and my scores were actually within a point of my average. So it's like, well, this to me proved that the numbers I'm seeing are legitimate, and if I do want to make the jump to pro, I haven't been sort of living a lie for a year.
If I was a backyard cook, I would get a huge boost out of getting in there and cooking against, again, the alleged masters and pros and whatnot, because it really does measure up against people who are either consistently winning or who win all the time in the higher level of competition. And when you're a backyard cook, you're always wondering, people are shy to get in the game because they don't feel like they can compete. But when you get in there, you cook, especially chicken. If you can get in there and cook chicken, you're 80% of the way into a KCBS contest.
So my question is if a backyard, if you can compete in that on that one meet, but it goes towards master team of the year points, why would you want that? Why does that matter? Wouldn't you want to go to your backyard team of the year points?
Yeah, you're 100% right. The only reason I was interested in doing it was because me and Brant had a thing, and it was fun to measure. Like there were, Childs was there, Luke was there, Billy Gillespie. Really good rib cooks were there, and so it was fun to see where I stacked in that order. So it was a pure fun thing. I can't confirm it 100%, but I'm pretty sure I was the highest finishing backyarder in KCBS Master Series ribs, which is also funny. But yeah, from a team of the year points thing for a backyarder, it's a wash. It's all about the fun. It's all about, I'm already here. I want to see how I stack up against these folks. And it's just, it's fun.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. The only question I have, like I said, is why would they count towards master points? I mean, that's kind of the only random thing out of it. I think it's a great idea. I honestly, every week on this podcast, I say I wish they did more backyard stuff when I was getting started with it.
I guess my question about that would be, well, number one, if you compete in the rib contest, if you're a backyarder, you're no longer eligible to cook in the shade tree in the jack.
They actually, Randy Bigler from the board actually confirmed with the jack before I signed up for that contest that it would not kill my eligibility. It's a very weird situation. I 100% agree. And I thought for sure it would eliminate shade tree eligibility, but they did. KCBS confirmed with the Jack Daniel shade tree that it does not.
Interesting. I guess my other question on it is it's a stepping stone into the Master Series that you can do ribs and chicken on Friday night, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How much are they stretching out people's backyard longevity to do this versus enticing them to go to the Master Series sooner?
Aaron, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I think it's more of trying to entice us to see where we will rank up with all the pros and get us to move over.
Okay.
I can see that.
Because we always question if we're judged exactly the same as the pros do.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get that score of 170 in backyard doesn't always mean it's a 170 in pro level, we think. But this gives
I don't know.
Comparison.
I tend to disagree with that. We judged Withville twice last year, and we did backyard once each time, and we graded them exactly as we grade a Master Series. I don't think KCBS judges are looking for an excuse to pump up people's scores. At least I hope they're not.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't leading into that, Mike. What I was saying was a lot of people were used to be intimidated by that idea. And this is going to open up to see it.
When I judged a lot, I can tell you I did see that happen. And it wasn't artificially pumping up the scores. You're kind of like giving him a break, right? Like, oh, right. He's trying. And it definitely did happen.
Yeah, I can honestly understand how that would happen with the backyard too. Like you said, Tiffany, this would definitely be a 5 on a KCBS plate, but it's the only 9 on this table that I have right now.
Right. And once you hear that, even if it's not true at all, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Once that's in your head, you never know.
You can't put that Swame back in the bottle.
Hey.
Once again, going back to what Rob said, if you have your processes down, it doesn't really matter what you're cooking in, whether it's backyard or pro. As long as you're comfortable with what you're doing and it's scoring good, it shouldn't matter who you go against.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, only one judging system, but how many judges? Everyone's an individual. They're going to make their own decisions.
Yep, that's true.
All right, Michael, what's the next one you got for us?
What else we got here? Let's see. Let me pull the list out and let's find another SCA question. Okay, SCA. If you look at the 2021 SCA calendar, nearly every weekend has multiple contests in multiple locations. The growth is crazy. What could slow or stop that growth?
Yeah, I mean, it does concern me. I mean, what concerns me, and I haven't seen it yet, and I hope I don't, is that it becomes a political thing. You know, the more politics you put into anything, the more you ruin something. And I haven't seen it yet, and I hope I don't.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the massive contest is great for the sport. I think we're going to see New Year's Eve that SCA is going to address how they control that politicization of the sport. Kent and Brett do such a fantastic job of keeping us grounded, keeping the sport grounded, and they don't really care for nonsense, shall we say? So we can see that there's a little bit of regional hostility, shall we say? But at the end, I think we're all going to get along just fine. But I think Ken and Brett will address it. But you're right, Tiffany. If it gets political, much like many of us have experienced on the other side, people will do the exact same thing that's happened over there, and they just moved on to something else. So.
Well, I think the biggest thing, in my opinion, and I don't know a whole heck of a lot about either or in depth, but SCA just seems so much more simpler than KCBS. You know, there's a whole lot more moving parts, moving wheels, everything for KCBS than it does for SCA, where it's one stake, turn into judges, it's done, over, bam. Versus KCBS.
You think so? I mean, I think KCBS made it complicated. I mean,
100%.
You say it's one steak, but those steak is provided. KCBS is providing all your own meat. So I think they complicated something that didn't need to be complicated, in my opinion.
So we'll hear a lot, because the force of this year, we've been now in the big scheme of things, we haven't done this weekend will be our 39 contest this year. You go, wow, that's a lot. It's lots of doubles, lots of triples. And you'll hear a lot of rumbling about, the stakes were bad here, the stakes were great there, and back and forth. But the beauty of it is everybody pulls from the same pool when it comes to the stakes. So if you're whining about the choice of stakes, there's going to be 40 other people whining about their stakes. So you don't have any advantage in that. And that really keeps it pure and simple. And that's one of the things that appeals to us, is that every weekend we've got a shot at it every weekend.
Michael, I know you got probably a lot to say about this, but real quick before we ask you, Josh, what are your thoughts on it? Being one of the top teams literally in the world right now.
KCBS does complicate it. I mean, you have some people that are cooking pro that can't afford Wagyu briskets week in and week out, and it gives an unfair advantage. I would like, I forget what contest it was, where you pick a number, here's a cooler full of meat, one entry, and this is what you got to deal with. I would love for KCBS to get some contests like that, whether it's prime briskets or Snake River Farm briskets, and here's legs. Okay, I've never cooked legs. Well, I have, but you never know what's in that cooler.
You cook legs, Josh?
Really? You cook legs?
Not anymore. But no, I think KCBS could do some things to simplify it, but they won't.
All right, one of the backyard guys, real quick, Michael. I know you're passionate.
Part of the problem with that is they used to run a series of contests called guinea pigs. And they were a contest where you went up, you drew a number, and you got a cooler full of meat. The logistics of that are just ridiculous. They have to get, let's say there's 30 teams. They have to get 35 briskets. They have to get 180 pieces of chicken. They have to get, 100 ribs. And then they have to sort them so that they're basically even across the board. And then they've got to put them in the coolers. And I know for the one that we went to in Richmond, it took 17 hours to do all that. Plus, you've got to go and get the meat from somebody. And you can't just go to Walmart or wherever, or even Snake River Farms and say, hi, need 30 briskets. I need them to be within a half a pound of each other, and I need them to all basically look the same. The big processors just aren't set up to do that. So it's very, very difficult logistically to do that.
Well, how about where they go the Iron Man, where you have one brisket, one pork butt, one rack of ribs, and 7 pieces of chicken. Rolf, you want to?
Oh, I really like the Iron Man.
So do I.
Iron Man's a great thing, and it's a great one-off contest. I wouldn't want to do it every week, honestly. One of the things about I akin barbecue cooking to racing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
You have a whole wide variety of things that you can purchase, procure, and do in order to make yourself more competitive. Meat selection is a skill. I know a lot of you have heard this. Meat selection is a skill, and all you're doing, in my personal opinion, is you're dumbing it down.
One of the cool things about SCA though is you can't outspend the competition. So you can't. So you can't have a $7,000 cooker. You can't. I mean, you can have all that stuff, but no matter how much you spend, you can't outspend the competition in SCA. So
you don't have to spend anything.
Outspend.
Yeah,
you can just borrow everything.
Yeah, we don't know anybody that's ever done that. So.
Or one.
So, and actually, this is a really good follow-on to the next question. Wow, we have a segue. Where is it? Do you think SCA will overtake KCBS as the premier competitive cooking entity?
Yes.
Honestly, I don't. As much as I love SCA and I love KCBS, I think it will, but I don't think it will, because unless they came out with like barbecue pit masters or anything like that, SCA wise, it's not going to get public attention like competition barbecue does. When I go to someone's house for a customer and they ask, we just get talking and they're like, oh, like the barbecue, I'm like, oh, I do professional barbecue competitions. Like, oh, like the ones on TV. Well, actually, I do steak. I've never heard of that. So I think publicity wise, I think KCBS and the 4-meats will always be bigger.
Well, here's a good follow-on to that. Okay, there used to be this organization, and it's still around throughout the country, called MBN, Memphis Barbecue Network. And back when I started, back in the day, when this was all brown and et cetera, MBN was the big competition, Memphis in May. KCBS came in and basically ate their lunch. They made it simpler, they made it easier, they made it cheaper, and pretty much MBN anymore, you only see 2 or 3 events around the country. It's done. And KCBS is there. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, and I'm a KCBS guy, I wouldn't be surprised to see KCBS is MBN and SCA is the new KCBS.
Tiffany, what were you going to say? Because I knew you had something on this. Huh?
Well, I was going to say to your point of having cooking shows. I mean, there are very few barbecue shows anymore. The latest barbecue show was actually a grilling/cooking show. I mean, there were barbecue pit masters there, but they were not cooking barbecue, because that you can't do it on TV unless you're hot and fast, and even that's too long. So I mean, I could see very much. There's a lot of great personalities in the SCA, and the personality is what makes the TV show. So it could happen.
I'll tell you what's going to drive SCA past KCBS. It's going to be the diversity of cooks involved. Young girls, young men, women. Those things are going to appeal. The growth of having so many females in this sport doing so well, not under the thumb of men, to be very, very honest with you. They're doing it on their own, of their own. That's going to drive it, because the interest is going to grow, because anybody can do it. You don't need a lot of money. All you need is a little bit of skill and a little bit of luck. And next thing you know, you got a golden ticket and you're in the championship.
Well, and look at the Haynes. I mean, you can truly do it as a whole family. Like,
Right.
your family can compete against each other.
I got a whole family.
It's a relatively inexpensive competitive gambling sport. I mean, it's kind of a gamble. So
there were 7 of the Haynes at the contest last weekend. All 7 of them cooking against each other. How about that? Huh?
You know,
yeah, awesome.
Ralph, I agree with you 100% that SCA is definitely more popular. If you look at the number of people this year that competed in SCA events versus the number of people that competed in all barbecue organizations across the board, the SCA number is way over it. But I think when you define it as premier, I think a lot of it comes down to the atmosphere that somebody can put around it, right? So when you talk about KCBS, well, if you go to Mike's example of MBN, there's probably people watching the show that never heard of MBN before, but those people have heard of Memphis in May.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about KCBS, granted, it's just the cooks that know these things generally, but you know about the Royal and the Jack and IBCA as Houston Livestock. I think if SCA ever gets to the point where, and Brett and Kent do a great job with it, don't get me wrong, but if they get premier events, sort of like you saw with the Shed, like you see with the championship and with the World Foods, if they get more buzz around those things, I think it can happen. But I think when you say premier, to me, I think of big events. And I think right now, until more things like the Shed, was that a triple or a quad this year? Whatever that was.
Yeah, the Shed was actually a double.
Okay, it was double. And
Big double. Yeah.
And then the 2 champions faced off in a cage match. I mean, that kind of thing is awesome. And that's the kind of thing that would push you over the top. But I mean, I just think if they get those kind of things, then it's a no-brainer. But until that happens, they definitely dominate popularity. But I don't know if I'd say they dominate as like the again, it's how you define premier, I guess.
No, very good point.
No, you're right. You're right.
I've seen this year a lot of the IBCA guys with their season get canceled and held short. They moved over and they were cooking KCBS right and left. So I think you're going to see maybe IBCA going away a little bit more, and more of those guys are moving over to KCBS in the next couple of years. Because, I mean, you guys have a lot worse where you guys are at, because we saw a little bit less contests out here, but I mean, for the most part, we did 24 contests last year, that's a lot for us. For sure. I mean,
it's a lot for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most we ever did was 20.
So, for example, the folks that are in the lead in SCA, they did 107 or 108 comps this year. Now they're doubles and triples, but each one cost you $150, whether it was 3 or 2 or 1 on a weekend. They did a lot of comps.
So, do you feel like the scoring for the SCA is fair?
Oh yeah.
I mean, so the more
let's talk about for team of the year. I got challenges with that.
Yeah, points chase and scoring, 2 different things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, to go have fun is one thing, but to go for team of the year, I mean, at least KCBS has it halfways correct, where you take your 10 best.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if SCA should do, okay, you take your 25 best or your 30 best. You know what I mean? So you don't get people that cook 107 contests and run away with it.
Apparently, here New Year's Eve, there's a change to that. So
yeah, if you listen to like episodes like the Arcasipi Smoke Live and John Lindsay and Ronald Burns on there, those guys talk a lot about regional champions. And I do think that's definitely going to become a thing. It needs to become a thing on the Mid-Atlantic. We're Northeast, aren't we? Yeah, we're Northeast. It needs to come around in there because you have people like Rolf and Robin and the Haynes and Ed Gent and Tiffany. And, Tiffany, I don't know if you'd be center or you'd probably still be the Mid-Atlantic champion in freaking North Dakota, your Arctic Tundra. But I definitely think that'll be – I'm looking forward to seeing if that's a thing here next year, sure, for Team of the Year championships. Because 100 and some odd competitions, Rolf, you've won more than anyone I know. There's no way you could come close to 100 some competitions in a year.
So it's interesting because and one of the things that kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off is Sandy Brown, who's going to be the points leader this year. she has the highest points per contest. One of the highest points per contest in the whole league. I have like the second highest points per contest, but I have 37 contests. She has 107 contests.
Rolf, where do you rank on the championship points right now?
But right now I'm 22. So hopefully after this weekend I can hang in the top 25. So.
And you just swept the triple. Like there needs to be regional.
It's the nature of the game. I don't cry about it. It's just nature of the game. So
right. Oh yeah, no, you're right. No, but I'm just saying for team of the year points and all that kind of stuff, SCA needs to. And Keith just keeps commenting SCA TV and YE.
Yeah. So it's cool because I'm with all my friends and I've been very fortunate. I have 7 this year and Robin has 4. And we've had a great year. We've had a ball and all of that within 37 contests. But we don't travel more than 3 or 4 hours. Some of these guys are doing 9 contests in a weekend. They're going to triple, double. I mean, it's nuts chasing those points. And I think Ken and Brett are going to try to find some sort of sanity to pull that back in where all of us, you, Jake, Rob, and Tiffany, all of us up here have a little bit of, we might have a little skin in the game and team of the year. So we'll see how it comes out when they announce it.
Well, and that's another great thing about the SCA as compared to other associations. They don't have a 12-9, however many board members are going to be on the KCBS board this year. They're not turning a juggernaut. Right. They've got 2 guys that can decide what happens and make really good decisions really quickly. It doesn't take them forever to turn the ship around.
So we're also going to cross our fingers for Robin because she has got a good strong weekend. She could crack the 25 this weekend too. So we'll see.
Go be up.
All right, Michael.
That brings up the next follow-on.
Man, we're just cartwheeling into these things.
Yeah, this is actually kind of fun. Okay, so SCA versus KCBS, and KCBS requires insurance, requires water, requires multi-sinks, has a whole series of requirements for teams that coincide with local health departments. SCA doesn't seem to have that. Why is that?
I'm going to put myself on mute for this one because I don't know.
Well, that's not a question I can answer because I'm just a competitor, not an organizer. So.
No, it's an interesting question because
I've never asked anyone organizing a KCBS why they had their requirements. I just show up and cook and move on and do my thing. So, so that's better a question for Brett and Ken and those 2 guys.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. It's just like chili contests. You go to chili contests and there's a bunch of people sitting there with tables sitting around and they're taking spoons and they're handing them to people to. Here's a sample. Try this. And yet, if you did that in KCBS, the health department would be standing on your neck.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an interesting question.
Is that the impression? Because in all the KCBS contests we've done, I've only run into health department issues maybe less than a handful of times.
Yeah.
Anybody came and checked. But I think that comes more out of the KCBS hierarchy than it does out of health departments, quite frankly.
It very well might.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that takes care of that question. Now, I saw this on the comments, so we'll go to this question. This is from Steve. I like to pick what competitions I'm going to based on who has the coolest trophies. What contest of any food sport event in the Mid-Atlantic do you think has the coolest trophies?
Oh, hold on.
Oh,
I know, hands down.
We have one of those too. Robin has it actually.
Mine's bigger, but that's nice.
Thanks, Tiffany.
I disagree. I think
don't judge a man by the size of his saw blade.
Robin and Tiffany both have a big pair of those.
Big pair of what?
Trophies.
I think.
Are they pointy?
Yes, they are. By the way.
Yeah. Don't drop it on your foot.
But I tell you, SCA has really done a good job with the trophy. I mean, you all get a soccer trophy here and there, but we've seen some cool stuff, some really interesting things. It's nice, yeah.
Josh,
we're all in it for the trophies, not the money. So.
The hydrant.
The one we got at Big Dan's was equally as interesting to me because he's building a barbecue restaurant, and so he took some of the wood that he was removing to do the remodel with all the old paint on it from the Pennsylvania barn and engraved it for us. So I mean, it may not be huge, but it was really special.
I got a wing.
Josh, what about yours?
I think BBQ has probably got some of the coolest trophies. You know, those soccer balls or whatever they are. Them are badass. I really
thought they were Death Stars.
Huh?
I said I thought they were Death Stars.
Them too.
So
I don't have one.
When I wrote that question, my answer was already the saw blades that you three have. Grill Your Ace Off kills it with those things. But my second answer, and I was really disappointed in 2019 when I found out that they didn't do it for BackYard. But my second answer was the soccer balls from BBQ. The first time I saw those, I was like, I've got to go to BBQ now and win one of those. And then Shriver, who we refer to as the godfather of the BackYard, informed me that even if I go and were to win the BackYard contest, we do not get those. So that was quite the bummer. But yeah, it's funny that you guys immediately point those out because those are the exact ones that came to my mind.
Well, one of the trophies that I always wanted, I think Michael has, is a banjo. Yeah, banjo. I wanted a banjo.
Banjo. And I'm still not happy that Robin, I love her, but we went to that contest and I said, I want a saw blade. At least I got to carry one home. So.
Yeah.
The banjos are held by women.
Oh, that's right. She's right. Robin was just know that all of the first place saw blades are held by women right now. Wow. How about that?
Yeah, Polar Pig down in North Carolina has just absolutely phenomenal trophies. I'd get Lisa to get one, but they're huge. The guy makes them by hand. They're made out of brass, and the chicken's cut out, and everything's put together. They're really stunning.
Tilly's used to have a really nice one too. They don't have the contest anymore, but Tilly's always had like a custom done. It was so gorgeous. I never won one of those either.
I don't know. Mood Swing. We had Sunny Moody and Jeff Moody on a couple weeks ago, and she won an actual fire hydrant.
Yeah, the fire hydrant was really cool when I saw that.
The fact that she was carrying it around was impressive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But one of the coolest things, we were at Fredericksburg, and they gave out these little tiny pig trophies on a little tiny marble base, but it was a $500 check for like fourth place. So they would go, you can have a little trophy or a big check. Which would you prefer, say?
Yeah, I like my big check with my little pork trophy.
That's the way it was when I used to race go-karts. You can either have a little trophy or a check. Like, what do you want? It's like, trophy.
Yeah, DC always had good trophies.
DC had great trophies, yeah.
I mean, DC's got, I got 4 of them in here, and they're like 8 feet tall.
Yep.
That's what
Michael, we got to see your barbecue trophy room here sometime.
I actually, the registration for Pussyq actually opened up tonight. And before we came on the show, I actually registered for it. For one, the part of that question that I didn't put in the question was the other way I pick contests is who's going to be there because I want to compete against great people. And we've met some great folks from Bama in the backyard. So we're going to Pussyq for that. But also, they sort of like DC have like 8-foot tall trophies, but they're all hand carved and super fine finished. So I was like, we've got to go down and make a run at one of those because.
Yep. Well, I saw Sean on the comments talking about the wrestling belts. One of our most prized trophies was we won the MABA Cup Finals, and we got probably one of the first wrestling belts they were giving away. And we love that damn trophy. That is the coolest trophy.
Cool. Yeah, the DC trophies are nice. They're big, but what makes it better is those 5-figure checks that come with them.
Oh yeah.
Okay, moving on. It's
Mike, real quick. We were talking about you the other day because you are probably the only person to have all 5 first place cutting boards from Beltway.
Yep.
Yep, because I had them all except when I found out you won People's Choice.
I don't think you have reserve either.
No, you're right. I don't. And now I'm whipped. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Beltway's coming back. They're already set up for it. You know, we lost Jonathan.
Oh yeah, that's sad. He's a good guy.
We lost Jonathan. He passed away.
Yeah.
But
and nobody had mentioned that Chris Mumaw passed away too. So,
yeah,
from Zombie. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a rough year.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Hey, there I am with El Darnell.
Okay, what do you think will be for 2021? This is prognostication time. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for KCBS?
Judges.
And not judging the way the judges are treated.
I don't know. I'm going to find out firsthand what that means here February 6th. So we'll see.
I think it's going to be spectators.
Wow. Okay.
You know, a lot of KCBS contests depend on the gate.
Yeah.
And depending on what happens,
you think that's because they're tied to an event?
Let's be honest. KCBS can get anybody off the street to judge. They do at the Royal.
I think you're dead on with that, because the way we overcame it in 2020 was there were so few contests here that everyone filled up, and there wasn't an empty seat in the house. So you had guys like Hardy down doing the Rufus Teague contest, where it was cash in, cash out, and you had enough teams to make that work. But yeah, if we start to have more contests, because we sort of made it work in 2020, and not everybody signs up for every single contest, I think you hit the nail on the head. What do you fall back on to make the revenue? Or not even the revenue, but break even?
Yeah, because it's not only a question of spectators, but it's also a question of sponsors. And if you don't have a gate, you're going to have a problem.
And yes, I agree with you 100%. However, in the Midwest, where we're at, it's not so much about the money, the cash money, as it is the points. So you're seeing a lot more people compete for less prize pool like we did in 2020 just to get points. I mean, then you go to Shawnee, Oklahoma. They ran off 2 doubles, had great sponsorship, which that's what drove the prize money up on some of those contests. But I don't see the first half of 2021 being like everybody hopes it's going to be in KCBS. I mean, we've already seen Shotgun Fred's canceled. They're not coming back. I feel like a lot of these contests that rely on public and the gate are not going to come back this year. And who knows if they're ever going to come back, because the soonest I think that it's going to be any kind of normalcy back in KCBS will be towards the end of the year or 2022.
Ashton needs to start competing in SCA.
We talked about that. But
yeah, don't bring her to West Newton, no.
Bring her.
As most of you guys know, she's only got a couple months, and then she's kind of tied up for another couple months.
Oh, she can cook a steak, all preggers.
Oh, teach the kids. Get them into Q chat. Get them into Kids Q. And let her sit on her couch or in her Barco Longer. She can just point to what she wants done. Okay.
Andrew, Ashton, and myself all cooking steak. It's kind of like
a
family.
Family smackdown.
It probably would be cheaper at the end of the weekend too.
Yeah, you might actually come out money ahead. I'm just saying.
Wait till you have 2 people paying for a triple. You'll see how cheap that is.
Okay. Next question. Let's see. There was a good one that just segued into this. Oh, here it is. They do it down south. And we talked about barbecue pitmasters up here in a little bit. Do you think there's room in the Mid-Atlantic region or anywhere else for a BBQ type show?
Oh, snap. Oh, yes.
And I would even say to put together a syndicate, because we don't know anybody that has any television experience or anything like that. But what if we did a BBQ type show once a month out of the Mid-Atlantic, Combine, SCA, and KCBS.
That'd definitely be a crazy thing to do. I know Mid-Atlantic wise, I mean, I know they try to they play around with that a little bit. That's when we talked to Amy from Team Meat Coma, and Michael, when we had you and Lisa on, we kind of talked about it a little bit, probably talked about more with Amy. That'd be a killer thing to have done. That'd be awesome.
I've actually kicked around the idea of that just because of the content I play around with creating on YouTube. And I've tried to do it a few times. The problem is, and it's not really a problem, but the biggest hurdle is you have to have somebody involved that's shooting B-roll constantly that's not trying to win a competition. Because the interesting bits happen, in those last several hours, and you can't film yourself or other people while you're there to win. Well, so it wouldn't take a whole lot of footage. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. No, keep it.
Well, at the end of the day, what makes BamaQ and what made Pitmasters fun was you were telling a story and people grew attached to a cast of characters. In the Mid-Atlantic, we definitely have a cast of characters, no doubt. So all it would take was, one or two people shooting some B-roll, somebody willing to ask some questions. I actually had sort of grand ideas of doing this, and I spoke to Lisa actually about trying to do it at the Zombie Q Double. Unfortunately, the wind was way too much there. I have equipment. I don't have the equipment to handle that kind of wind, so I sort of couched it. But I definitely think it could be pulled off.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, Steve, like you and I go into it as a vlog perspective, but if you and I or you or I went down just like film the competition, like didn't participate in it, that would be amazing. You just pop in Michael Fay. Hey, Michael, how are you doing? The Apocalypse Now. Josh Farley here. We're over at SCA talking to Rolf and Robin and Tiffany. That would be what it'd have to be. There's no way you could vlog a competition like you said without a B-roll person.
Yeah, we've got a lot of chatter we have in the backyard. We could really pick something off. It's daily. We have a constant group chat going on. We could fill some content up.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, from teaching the classes, I've actually got a number of cameras that we were going to install in the trailer, and we were going to put a display outside so that people could come up and they could see what's going on. Because right now you've got a bunch of guys that look like me, fat guys, inside a trailer with the door shut, and people are walking around going, "What's going on?"
Yep.
And we were going to set that up, but it was always so windy and rainy this year.
Michael, I'll be more than happy to put a camera in your trailer anytime.
Can you
same with your pit, same with your tent at SCA. I'd be more than happy to put your camera in there.
Wrap her up there, buddy.
A lot of these KCBS teams have 5 or 6 members, and it really only takes one person to cook KCBS, so they could have a few just running cameras.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's something that really, the Mid-Atlantic Barbecue Association or some of the other groups should really look into.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would take that much to actually set it up.
It'd be a lot of behind the scenes stuff, the editing, all that kind of good stuff. That's only 25% of the show of when I used to do YouTube videos. Steve will attest to this too. A small part of it's on the camera. The large part of it is sitting there editing and putting it all together and doing all that kind of stuff. That's where he goes, oh, yeah, it'd be simple to have a couple of people down there with cameras talking to people. That'd be fun. But if you hand me like 5 SD cards and a computer, I'm like, we're done for a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. No, like I said, I've thought about it a lot since 2018 because I've tried it 3 or 4 times just for myself. But, I mean, I would be more than happy to try to do that if it was a pro-only contest and I couldn't compete because that's where I get hung up. But yeah, if I've got nothing else to do but come down and film people and talk to people, the editing is something that you definitely will spend more time in. But if I can sit down and have enough content that I can pick through it, then it's just a matter of time. You can't go back and recapture moments. So
yeah, BamaQ got lucky whenever I guess they got hooked up with a local TV station or something like that to play around with it. That's kind of what it seems. I have no idea. We haven't talked to any of those people other than Bees Knees. But from the way it seems, just from the way it looks, they must have got hooked up with a local TV company or something like that to dabble around. Like, I guess in here it'd be like, I don't even know where our local TV station is, but having someone do that.
Well, in the Washington, D.C. area, we could approach the local community college that has a broadcast class.
Definitely.
There you go.
And they do have an actual broadcast television station on site.
Hell, Robin dancing would fill an episode.
What's that? What was that?
I said Robin dancing around could fill an episode.
There you go.
I mean,
first scene, we pan on to Rodney dressed as a turkey. That's the show. That's the first episode of the Mid-Atlantic Barbecue Association TV show. Is the Rodney Garrett in a turkey costume.
Yeah, don't forget the bikini.
Oh my gosh, that boy!
You can't forget that.
If he only knew we were talking about him.
Well, we got an action item now. Is somebody needs to go talk to the local community college? I guess that'll be me. Okay, moving on.
Will you wear that hat? Will you wear that hat to go talk to him, Michael?
Oh, sure. Why not? Why not? They can't take me that far. Okay. In 2020, even though we had fewer competitions, they were all full up. In 2021, how do you think we can keep that excitement and continue to help food sport gain momentum?
I think 2021 will fill naturally because people were tight. But once things loosen up, people are going to look for things to do, and it's going to be really, really full out there. Everything's going to be full as people are allowed to or feel like they're allowed to get out.
Yeah, I agree. I think people are going to be flooding the outdoors.
Oh yeah.
But I think when you talk about like the excitement, the events are us we're in it, right? We're in it already, and we love it. But to keep it growing, to keep it getting in, and Aaron and I come from BackYard this year, where in 2019, if I went to a BackYard event and there were 11 teams, that was a good fill. This year, I think the smallest event we did was like 14 teams. So we got to watch sort of a buzz around it create more of it. It gained momentum. And a lot of that, I feel like, was just through engagement. And I'm not necessarily even saying engagement through like the Mid-Atlantic Barbecue Association or the SCA. It was just us engaging each other. And we were doing it remotely because of COVID. But I think of things in the beginning of this, like Rolf, you and Robin, I believe, held like 922 shots in the beginning of this year virtually.
Yep.
As just a way for people to stay engaged and stay connected. And it was something fun that other people see you doing. So I think if you can keep that engagement, and because when we're with you, essentially as an adult, I break it down to I have people I go to work with and I have people that I choose to hang out with. And I really only have time for one hobby. And right now I choose to hang out with barbecuing and steak cooking people. So, it's because it's fun. So the more that we can make it look fun because it is fun, the more that we can show that and engage other people in it, I think it can really help the growth of any food sport, really.
Yep, very well said.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that's interesting to me is, like DC 2 years ago, they actually did an open pan cook-off during the event. And the Jack does this too. The Jack does the I Don't Know Jack, where they pick so many teams and they go and they actually do a cook-off that's uncovered everything. What I like about the turkey KCBS did last was everything isn't hidden by this guy with his arms raised. People want to see what you're doing. They want to be engaged. The spectators really want to be engaged. And I think that's something that every food sport, SCA, KCBS, all of them, really need to take a step forward and say, we need to engage the public more.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, one of the things back in KCBS, I hated the fact we would be at a contest and people would be walking around and asking, "Hey, where can I get some barbecue? What's going on?" And so many teams, I mean, they're focused on what they were doing. So we always tried, whether it was, foul of the rules or not, to have a little, people come in, watch us trim. When that brisket came off, there may have been a pan of burnt ends that didn't get quite far enough away from the end of the table, that sort of thing. And it was great because people were complaining they couldn't get in and see what was going on, especially when they paid to get in. Oh. And that was interesting. With SCA, we got people just come up. They come over with us. We just show them everything. The judges hang out. It's just so much more relaxed. But KCBS has a huge problem with people locking themselves indoors, spectators walking around, and they see a bunch of folding chairs and some smoking cookers, and that's all they see once they paid $5 to get in.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yep.
Definitely.
That's why Faith putting cameras in his trailer.
I think SCA is heading that way. You're starting to see more and more trailers in SCA. We don't know anybody that's doing that, do we?
I'm not a huge fan of it. I'll be very clear, and I've been very, very clear. I am not a big fan of the trailer because it takes away from the purity and the basics of the operations.
Let me tell you, the heater in there from the big bands. You can say what you want, but I was in a t-shirt trimming my snake, and it was great. Now, did I do well? No, but hey, it is.
No, we weren't.
My little tent in my fire pit did just fine.
Hey, you're 100% right. I mean, it isn't necessary, and I do, I don't want to do it all the time, but daggone, man, it is pretty nice to have a little trailer to take up there and do.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what drove KCBS away from people. Is that and more and more it was it's the Sting theory, shiny metal boxes, and that's all it was, man.
Yeah.
When we start dabbling in SCA, notice how I say when. We'll just have a pop up, throw it in the back of the truck, call it a day. Come back and be done.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm not listening. These guys down south in Tennessee and Arkansas and Florida in August, I kind of understand a little bit, but it's the simplicity of it that drew us into it. I hope it stays simple.
Yeah, I think it will.
Yep. We ready to move on? All right. Here's a question for everybody. How long before the women totally dominate SCA with black leather pants and everything else?
Aren't they already?
I was going to say, they already are.
I'm telling you, I could not be more. Listen, I'm proud to be married to an exceptional cook. I'm also proud to see one of my favorite cooks sitting in the center of the square here. I could not be more excited when I see Tina and her daughter and these women get out there and they cook without being, it's so important to say this, they cook without being under the thumb of their husbands and boyfriends. They are doing it on their own. It is not they are truly cooks. They are not being led or guided during the cook day at least. And it's super cool to be out there and compete with them. And I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, the points leader in the SCA is a female, BT Dub.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's ever happened in KCBS.
But you have a few. I'll give you this. You have a few celebrity cooks in KCBS who are women, and I'm going to go off the cliff here, but they're celebrity cooks because they are women. In SCA, the celebrity cooks are women because they are great cooks.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is a poll, and we're going to poll each person individually. We're going to start with Josh. This is a 2021 question. What is going to be the one watershed moment in 2021? Either KCBS, SCA, or BackYard.
What's a watershed?
One watershed moment.
What's that, Jake?
What's a watershed?
Big surprise.
Okay.
Oh, what do I think the big surprise is going to be?
Do 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 do.
I honestly think that the Jack might not come back.
The Jack may not come back. That's quite a spread.
Wow.
With everything else going on right now, I think this was their time. If they want to get out, they could technically walk away and not have to deal with it. Not that they don't want to, but I think it's one of those things. It's too much liability, I think, on their part come with COVID and everything else this last year and then this year.
Damn it, I got a free entry this year. That better not happen. Okay. Steve.
Well, I'm going to stick with the Jack, except I'm going with not only is it happening, but the Shade Tree will no longer be a lottery, and you have to win your way in as a backyarder.
Bam.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Ralph.
A watershed moment for me will be that the SCA World Championships even go off. I think everybody's intentions are very, very, very good to get to Fort Worth in March, but it's a huge event with a lot of profile, and I think it's going to come down to more of a venue problem than it is a participation problem. So I really hope that those guys got it together, that we can get down there and do that one more time. I mean, if it doesn't happen, they'll move it next year, and that won't be the worst thing. But a lot of great cooking went on this year, and everybody was safe. Everybody was. We were very, very cognizant of being out there amongst each other. So it would be very interesting to see if they can pull that off.
Tiffany.
I think the SCA is going to go away with participation points.
Yay! and since there's dead silence, I thank you for that.
Aaron.
I'm probably going to go with one of the comments in the chat group with Travis and seeing something like a girl winning some events in the KCBS and backyard and pro divisions. I think they're really starting to highlight things and captivate an audience for us.
Okay. Cool. Do any of our hosts want to jump in on this?
I think Team Q Chat's going to get gold tickets.
Woohoo!
What,
We're going to make sure
Wonka
of it.
What's that?
We're going to make
Wonka
sure of
bars?
it.
What did you say, Mike?
Wonka bars?
Wonka
Yeah.
bars. They are
Yeah.
good though.
Yeah.
What about you, Swami Mike? What's your prediction?
I think, and this isn't a good prediction, I think KCBS is going to take a giant step backwards. We had a period of growth, phenomenal growth, primarily due to the Barbecue Pitmaster show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last year, if you look on the internet and you look on the websites, people are selling trailers left and right.
Agreed.
People are stepping back. People are stepping away. They're going to these lesser food sports. Who said that? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, seriously, I think KCBS is going to take, and it's going to take at least a year, maybe two, to even recover from last year's level.
I would
Mike?
agree.
Hey, Mike, do you think KCBS has outthought itself? That they have just made it just everything is just so, and I hate to use the word political, but everybody's got a voice. Everybody's got an opinion. Of course, with Facebook. But I think one of the things that kind of, and I wouldn't say soured us to KCBS, but didn't hurt when we moved on, was it was just a constant noise around KCBS.
Yeah, I think we're still seeing the results of some of that. And again, I think it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And KCBS is going to have to step up, and they're going to have to address some of these issues. One of the questions we didn't get to was, what about judging? What about judge certification? What are they going to do about tables of angels, tables of death? And that's a big issue. You've got,
the number one problem with judging that I have found, without question, social media. Social media from both sides. Cooks slapping up pictures of boxes saying how wonderful they are. Who the hell knows? Slapping judges. It's just, it's become a total bitch slap back and forth, and people got tired of it.
Yeah, that's true. I see some smiles. Yeah. Oh, I see some people smiling, Steve.
I mean, I feel like I have to know the exact story that Rolf is talking about, because there is one that sticks out in my head. And
no, I don't have one story. I have a multiple, but yours is going to be better.
No. I'd rather not go into specifics, but I definitely saw what you were talking about. Specifically, I saw it from the cook side, and 100% with what you said. You can have a beautiful box that isn't tender and just tastes bland and terrible. And I've seen guys with boxes that I don't think are that pretty, but they consistently score high because there's more than just a pretty box. And people have to learn to get over the fact that just because you make pretty food doesn't mean you make food that tastes good. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've necessarily seen it as much from the judging side, but I have to imagine that there is some resentment when you see that as a judge. I actually have had several people ask me this year as we were competing. I'd bring them along with me, and they'd go, so do they pay the judges to come to these things? And I'm like, well, no, your payment is you get to eat, hopefully, some very delicious barbecue that people have just worked their butt off trying to make for you. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you're coming for free and that's all it is, and then you're going to get berated, it's not a good environment for sure. In something that's such a symbiotic relationship between judges, organizers, reps, and cooks, you can't have one party trying to beat on another one in a public forum. That's just not going to go well.
No, and that's one thing we've learned more than anything having this show. We heard it from Michael Fay. Childs preached it like the gospel, and Rolf mentioned it too. Judges need to cook, cooks need to judge. Mm-hmm. It's plain and simple, and that's why I'm ecstatic to finally have found a judging class within a 10-hour drive, which I'm going to go do because it needs to be done. I need to learn how to judge and how it works and that sort of thing. Dave and I were fortunate enough a couple weeks ago to go back and watch and see how they judged an SCA and how they cut the steaks and how that all worked out. And that's changed how we think of things now already. And we saw it on Friday night. Saturday, we were looking at seeing where replacement was. So judges need to cook and cooks need to judge.
The one thing that we did is we volunteered one weekend and we actually cooked for a judging class down in St. Roberts. And, KCBS kind of sets you up kind of to fail right out of the gate. They won't pay you for anything good. They want you to put the cheapest, crappiest food you can almost in a box and turn it in. And I said, no, I'm going to roll with my comp profile. I'm going to do everything. I might not buy a Wagyu brisket, but I'll still get the Prairie Fresh butt. You know what I mean? I'll still get decent chicken. I'll still get good ribs, but I'm not going to just put bland stuff together. I said, I got 2 totes full of rubs left over. I can make good food out of whatever's there. And I think KCBS needs to kind of up their game when it comes to teaching judges out of the gate what good food is, mediocre food. Appearance is a big thing. Tenderness is a big thing. The one thing you can't teach somebody is taste. And that's where I think KCBS is lacking, because they're not showing good boxes on film. They might show a good box, but not right there in front of you.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind it? Because I've heard that too before, where they've told people. I forget where I heard it, what podcast I heard, or who was talking, where they said someone was told make the worst barbecue possible for a judging class. That was you, Tiffany? That was Tiffany. I knew it was.
That was me. I volunteered as a table captain for a judging class, and the cooks were told to pretty much make the worst you can make and throw it in the box and make it look ugly. So it either teaches somebody that that's supposed to be an 8 or a 7, or that's supposed to be a 5. And so 5 is my low. I just thought the class was complete and utter shit. And anybody who left that class and judged me, I would have been really upset about it.
I'll tell you, cooking a barbecue or even a steak judging class is a curse if they know who you are that cooked it, because the judges walk away because I cooked one with Mike Fay one time, and I cooked a couple of SCA classes, and people walk away. It's like, man, they weren't that good. They weren't supposed to be that good.
Well, let me tell you the story behind that. First of all, let me back to the days before electricity. When I first got started as a judge, we got 5 boxes of each meat at each table. And we got the cooks that were cooking it, they cooked the ribs, some of them underdone, some of them overdone, some of them perfect. The briskets were the same way. Everything was the same. But we got 5 boxes of chicken, 5 boxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fast forward now, you get 3. That's it. But the reason for the reason for make it like crap, there was a contest in this region a few years ago, and the team that cooked for the judges class, they brought a lot of new judges in from the judges class, and they won the event. There was a lot of heartburn over that. The next year, the same thing happened with the same people. There was a lot of heartburn over that. After that, the KCBS board made a decision, cook crap. And that's where that came from. But and the other thing is you don't get to actually sample salty brisket, non-salty brisket, soft ribs, hard ribs. You get 1 box, and all you're looking at is the sauce pooled, is the garnish legal, and they don't care. That's it. And that's a problem.
The class we did, we had to do, they wanted us to do whatever kind of chicken, whether it's breast or thigh, legs or thighs, and breast, which is white meat. So we had to do 2 boxes of chicken per table. One of each. Doesn't matter for flavor profile on the chicken. Ribs had to go in 1 box non-sauced, 1 box sauced. They did all the boxes. They're the ones that made it, whether it was legal or not, whether there was foil in the box, whether there was pooling. I didn't make a single box. That was on the organizers to do that. So pork, they wanted 1 sauced, 1 not sauced. So you're getting 2 different variations. And then brisket was burn ends and then slices. So, which is good because I'm glad that they're trying to teach people how to judge burn ends finally.
Yeah, KCBS judging class is a rules class. It's not a food class.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Vinny Gambini going to law school.
Yeah.
You learn what's legal, not what's good.
Exactly.
Sticking on KCBS judge, my watershed moment was sort of like my own personal pipe dream. I'd love for mine to happen, but a more realistic one, because I feel like since 2000, pretty much since Emily became the president, I've heard a lot of people who are big into KCBS, whether they're board members or just well-known cooks or whatever, talk about we've got to fix the issue with judges being trained in 3 different systems. With the possibility of 2021 being another roughish year with the current state of things, do you think it's a possibility that they tackle a judge recertification in 2021?
No.
Maybe tackle, but not agree.
I
don't think those board members can agree on one thing.
I don't personally think that some of the judges want to be recertified. They don't want to have to go sit through another class. You know, we had a prime example. We had a master judge that judged over 300 contests at one of our contests, and they looked back at the records. He hadn't judged since 2011. So, I mean, a lot has changed in 9 years.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, okay, you're a master judge, so you're going to get seated like a master judge, but yet you're kind of irrelevant at that point.
Yeah, that's one of the issues that they really need to address as far as recertifying judges. Because right now, if you're a judge, like I'm a judge, if I buy a life membership, I'm a judge for life. I can never be uncertified, and that's an issue.
You know, in
some kind of bylaw written in where, okay, if you haven't judged in 3 years, you need to take a 4-hour refresher course, or, you know, and just do it online or whatever. Just see what everybody else is doing nowadays.
Exactly. We lived through the year of we lived through the year of Zoom meetings and online courses. I think it's very possible that you could create a refresher course or a whatever course that you would require to be completed every year to be a valid certification. I do know that reps have to do a certain amount of courses per year, otherwise they lose their ability to rep. So if it was free content created by the organization, that seems the least invasive to me. However, I will also admit that I do know in large organizations, to get things to move, there's a lot more behind the scenes things that have to happen. So I'll plead, but it does. You could possibly achieve.
But I think KCBS is at that turning point where they either need to do something, or you're going to start losing members right and left more than what they did last year. I mean, you're losing cooks right and left. You're losing judges right and left. Yeah. I mean, these young.
Well, for judges, there is on the KCBS website, there is a refresher course. I mean, obviously it's not tasting barbecue, but it's going through the rules, and the rules are updated. So, I mean, that's on there. And when I was an active judge, I haven't judged because we haven't had contests, and I'm in North Dakota now. So, but I would go every year before I went to my first thing I've judged for 7 years and I'm a master, blah, blah, whatever. But every year you forget. I mean, you go through that whole winter and you don't use it. So it's been there. I'm sure it's still there, and judges should not maybe be required to take it. Maybe you have to just log in and take it, and they have to see that before you go judge again.
I'll tell you one of the interesting things, and Tiffany, you and I sat together at one of the first SCA judging classes. The way they teach judging in SCA is positive. They encourage you to look for the best of your turn-in, the best of your box. And KCBS probably has to look at that a little bit, because they encourage you to look for errors and failures and flaws. Where SCA, when they teach their class, they teach you to look for the best in the box. And it's not a smoke blowing thing for SCA. I just tell you how it went. Well, I went through it. They never talked about how to disqualify an entry. They talked about how quality an entry should look, and that was an interesting thought process they had. That's it.
Yeah, to follow back on that, I mean, Rolf, I'm sure with your job, you have to get certifications. Dave, with your job, you have to keep up with certifications. I know with my job, I keep up with probably all of us with our jobs, we have to keep up with certifications. I think with judging, you can be a lifelong member, but you still need to go back to classes and follow up with things. I mean, unless you're judging probably 15, 20 a year, then you could probably find a way around that.
Well, I think if you're judging a lot of contests, that should, just like any continuing education, if you're judging a bunch of contests, you're in the game. But maybe there's something to look at. If you have not judged X, then maybe you're up for a requalification. But if you've judged, 40 contests a year, I don't think taking a requalification is going to do you much good. I think you're really in the mix. So.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
Well, that's just like if you're cooking more, the more you cook, the better you become.
Yeah, your process smooths out.
Yeah,
and we laughed because when we got to the end of our KCBS career, I mean, we didn't have to even look at each other to know what the next thing was going to be. But you take 2 weeks off, and it was just a tad shaky.
Yeah, and see, that's what really helped us out, because we ended up going I forget it was 18 weeks in a row, and you just. Mondays is clean the smoker night. Tuesday is prep night. Wednesday you're doing this. Thursday you're packing the trailer, and Friday you're gone. Right. You just get on that routine, and everybody.
But your time in the trailer was equally as routine. This was going to happen. This was going to happen. This was going to happen. This was going to happen, and it just.
Actually, you don't even have to think about it anymore at that point. You don't have to look at the timeline. Okay, did I forget this? What did I forget? A lot of times, Ash and I looked at each other and what do we do now? I guess we're just gonna relax, because everything's done, everything's prepped, everything's where it should be. I mean, your wasted time goes down to about nothing.
Yeah. As a process, it's easier to cook 25 a year now physically, but process wise, if you do 25 a year, you are in the group. So.
Absolutely. Mike's device is not connected. Your guest will need to connect their mic and cam before they can.
And just saw Don Bacon bust up there. He must not have heard me correctly. That's exactly what I said, is that SCA is about getting it right and taking care of the cooks. Yes. So we do read the comments.
Wow. Look at that view.
There we go.
Oh, my goodness. It's the fly.
Oh, man.
Oh, I got the wrong camera.
So many jokes, no time to do them.
Let me put him back so he gets straightened out there. Oh, man.
So I got a question for you guys, Q-Chat boys. What's next for 2021? What's
what's up with Q-Chat?
Yeah, what do you got up your sleeve for the first episode of 2021?
There's a couple different ones. I think the first one next week's going to be Dennis Bowman, the current KCBS BackYard World Champion, and David Dick is going to be on because they're having a class. I know we need to talk a little bit to Jim Hudgens, the SCA Steak Master. And then John Lindsay and Ronald Burns both said that they want to be on together. So I know that's going to be a fun night. But I don't know. There's a whole lot of possibilities. We'd like to talk to the second place world champion chicken cook again sometime.
Nah.
And go from there. But
chicken's easy. The devil's bird is easy to cook. You just
the devil's bird. The devil's bird, he says.
Don't tell Lisa and Amy that shit's easy to cook. They're gonna shank you in the parking lot.
Listen, chicken's so easy, it's not even funny.
Not for me, it never was.
Oh man, you back, Michael?
Nope. No way.
I don't know if he can hear us or not.
I think you need to have an all-ladies panel in 2021.
There you go.
That's what the wives say Valentine's Day needs to be.
There you go.
It needs to be an all-ladies panel with them. And I'm like, that'll last 15 minutes, if that.
So I would definitely.
But you'll last 15 minutes. They'll take over the show.
No, it'll last 15 minutes, if that. I don't know. We're honestly, Dave. What are your thoughts? Because it's never thought it'd be like this. I mean, we're sitting here with some of the best people in the world. We've made some of the best friends in the world, all because of this stupid freaking virus that we're on here complaining about, talking about, and turned into this. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of it.
Well, I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. You keep people occupied. You give us a release. Get out there and talk to each other and see other people. So I wouldn't be looking for too much change. So
No, I would like to keep the same. I mean,
I think pushing probably a little bit more on iTunes and Spotify would be nice to have more downloads
more viewers.
More views would be nice, yeah. But having more people listen to it, that way iTunes picks it up, Spotify picks it up, more people want to listen to it. Sponsors, we got Booster Barbecue. Shout out to Booster Barbecue on here and wanting to do stuff. The sky's the limit, to be honest with you.
So, hey, Jake, I had something I was thinking about the other day. So maybe one day, if you find anything, let's do a pro tips show. Let's get a whole bunch of people that can pop in and just, 30, 40 pro tips from people.
There we go. Whatever secrets we're willing to share.
Yeah.
I'd watch that.
Chicken with pig and whiskey.
I'll even show you how to trim a leg.
There we go. No, there's a lot of cool things to do. I mean, like Josh said, we could have people set up a camera and show how they trim a leg, or Rolf see how you trim a steak, or Tiffany how you trim a steak, or Steve how you trim ribs. Aaron how you do a pork butt. I mean, there's a lot of different things to do and try out. It's I don't know. It's kind of.
I want to see Rolf do a brisket. I've always wanted to see Rolf do a brisket because I always wanted to take his class, but he never did one when I was still on the East Coast. So I'm like, damn, the brisket man himself. I just want to learn.
Me too. I want that secret recipe. Best brisket in the world.
Hey, Tim,
Any day.
Get it to me.
Michael, are you back with us?
I think I am.
There you go. We got you now.
I just, for some reason, I can't. My camera's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Oh, there it is.
You look good.
Yeah, you're on with us.
There it is. Yeah, that auxiliary camera is sometimes interesting. Hey, so speaking of QChat, are you guys going to come and do a little broadcast from the class?
We'd be more than happy to. We're really excited about that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, we can do that, and maybe the next time you do another one, we can shoot a little promo for you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
So,
I think tonight's been fun.
Absolutely. You got any other questions or anything like that?
Let me see what I
We've
got.
gone an hour and a half, and I text Dave. I'm like, man, I gotta go to the bathroom so bad I'm gonna cry, and I had to get up and go. I don't hope we didn't shut it down that early.
Well, my pizza's going to be here in 10 minutes, so I'm out.
Your pizza's gonna be here in 10 minutes. Jeez, you.
Unfortunately, North Dakota probably took 2 hours to get there, so she probably ordered it.
Yeah, it's frozen.
Is it Casey?
Yeah, it's being brought by Yak. Let's see.
Is it a Casey's pizza?
No, we actually I have found really good pizza here. So yeah, it's fancy. It's like prosciutto and onions and fancy. You know me, fancy.
DiGiorno.
Yeah, we've pretty much hit everybody's question.
Yeah.
There was one good question that we didn't really hit, which was, do we see contests on the East Coast growing, or are they going to continue to stagnate? Sandy Fulton is supposedly retiring this year. So is somebody else going to step up, or are we going to be looking for just a bunch of people just throwing contests together? I think that's a good question.
I think you'll see SCA grow because of the simplicity and the lack of overhead and infrastructure it takes to run an SCA contest. I think if organizations are looking to make a little bit of a profit on something, they will probably move toward SCA because you don't have, again, back to the KCBS, you don't have to build a trailer park every weekend for a contest.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and that's actually a good question if we wanted to kind of wrap things up. What does everybody think needs to be done in the next 24 months to get things back on track or get things better?
On a KCBS point of view or overall point of view? Because SCA is doing pretty well.
Well, SCA's booming. To me, KCBS, Rolf just mentioned it, people building trailer parks.
Yeah.
To me, I think personally that some of these KCBS events are pricing themselves out of the market so bad. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think that some of these KCBS events need to just buck up and say, hey, we're doing a contest. You get a 30-foot space. You get no electric. You get hose water, and that's it. And if you want electric, you bring your own. If you want anything else, you bring your own. Yep. I think a lot of contests, and especially on the East Coast, the Middle Atlantic region and slightly north, there's such a demand. Well, I'm not coming to your contest if I don't have a 50-watt generator, a 50 amp service. Yeah, if I don't have 50 amp service, I'm not coming.
Josh, what's it like out there?
We bring generators. We get a water spigot on the other side. I mean, you bring water in your trailer, or you chug hoses. Buckets of water. You don't get electric at every contest. You don't get water hookers at every contest. If you
that's the Midwest. We're hardy folk.
I mean, it's you have an open parking lot. You pull your trailer in, you go. You have everybody running their quiet generators. Occasionally, you have one guy, a new guy that has a loud one, but you deal with it because that's what you do. It's, and that's why out here we're paying $175 to $200 to $225, maybe $250 per contest. We're not paying $300, $325 per contest.
Yeah.
I mean, the word was that Bel Air, which Mike and I know Bel Air very well, that their expense on electric was almost 15 grand for the weekend.
Yeah, that's not necessary.
And guess what happened all weekend after they spent that 15 grand?
Generators glitch out.
It worked okay. The big guys were blowing out the circuits because they were pulling too much juice. It just was a total cluster, and it didn't have to be that way. They could have just said, like you said, Josh, you want juice, bring juice. And that's how it's going to go.
Listen, all the big guys have generators on their rigs anyway.
Yep.
So it's.
You mean Charles has a generator in his rig?
Huh?
Oh yeah.
A small one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know.
But I mean, that's one way that you can cut a cost. I mean, there's 15 grand that you could put into the prize pool or your charity or whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yep.
And see, that's the luxury out here. And Tiff hit it right on the head. I mean, we don't need a lot of frills out here. We just want to cook.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give me a park, give me a grass field, no generator, no, water. I mean, so you can sanitize and clean your dishes. That's about it. That's all you need out here.
Yeah. I've actually talked to several organizers this year about putting on backyard only contests because when everything fell through, the few that remained were pro only, and so we wanted to have our little side bet points chase in the Mid-Atlantic. And every one of them, the first thing they said was, well, we're going to have this much in electric and this much in the, and of course we're slightly different. We're still new. We're not accustomed to certain things yet. And I told them all the same thing. I said, for the backyard people, as long as you're very upfront with the fact that if you come here, we'll have water, but you got to truck it in a bucket, or there's no power. So if you're running the pellet grill, bring a generator. As long as you're upfront with that on the application, people are very understanding. But I know that I've heard Sterling Ball talk about power and water, the two biggest things that an organizer has to deal with. And once you remove those, it does get a lot better. But there's still a ton of Jody Light, who puts on Almost Heaven's barbecue bash. She let me sort of sit in on a meeting where they were figuring out how much it was going to cost. And, by the time you go through insurance and all this, that, and the other, there's still a sizable fee even when you remove just the power and significant water infrastructure, I suppose. But yeah, that's sort of where I go with it is, you guys are used to it out in the Midwest, Josh, that's just how it's going to be is you may or may not have power. And that's sort of, how our backyard comps have been set up is we may or may not have power, but as long as it's very clear up front, everyone, knows the expectation coming in and we show up with 20 teams, 24 teams, 30 teams.
Aaron, you run off a pellet cooker. I mean, do you have a generator that runs off your pellet cooker, or do you need power?
Yeah, I started carrying a loud generator with me, and I finally upgraded time to go to Worlds out there with Ron, and I've got a quiet inverter now. But yeah, I've always been carrying a generator just as a backup.
Yeah. Yep. So,
All right. I
So
think
that
personally,
would go a long way towards increasing the price, making it because meat's more expensive, gas is more expensive, everything's more expensive. So if we could a little bit more money for the charity, a little bit more money for the cookers, and maybe probably more than likely more cooks because they can afford to get in the game. So,
Yeah,
I mean, from a backyard perspective, you would probably say one of the biggest challenges is doubling your expense for every contest, wouldn't you?
Yeah, essentially. So when we go cook a backyard, I was just having this conversation with the organizer the other day. I've seen prices from $75 to $250 and everywhere in between. And it all just depends on the amount of amenities that we get at a certain contest. I don't know how in the world Ken at York does it for $75 for the backyarders, but he does. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the perks of being a backyarder is that we see the cost of just stepping in the door as a pro in our area. And for me, I'm one of those weird people, like probably you guys are, where if I'm going to do something, I want to be able to do it well. And you guys said it earlier, is the way you do it well is you do it a bunch of times. Well, I could go pro, and I intended to go pro after 2019, but at cost, in current things, I figured I could maybe get in 4 or 5 contests. Whereas if we stayed backyard with the lower entry fee, with the understanding that, I bring an inverter generator with me because I'm paying less for my spot, I can suddenly do 10 to 15, and it's just repetition at that point.
Yep. You're right on the head with it. So,
Well, I think,
Michael,
I think personally that one of the big issues with KCBS is number one, cost factor, and number two, expense factor. But what I would like to see KCBS auditing some of these events. There was an event we went to last cycle, and when it started out, they had golf carts. It was a campground, and they had rented golf carts for the reps. And by the end of the thing, the next couple of years, every rep had their own golf cart. Almost every volunteer had their own golf cart. The bottom line is the teams pay for all this.
Mm-hmm.
The teams have to absorb all these expenses. And I think a lot of the teams' expenses are overutilized, personally.
Yeah, because you see on like the show Barbecue, I don't know how they get the golf carts or not, but they're riding the golf carts in their turn-in times.
Yeah, I mean we're in Georgia in February, they give you a golf cart so that you can go make your turn-ins versus out of your little cabin that's a half a mile away.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, Michael, you got anything else for us, sir? I mean, man, we're coming up on the longest podcast ever, an hour and 40 minutes. Tiffany's got pizza waiting.
I have a cheesesteak waiting. We have answered every question that everybody submitted.
Woohoo!
And I think we've had some good back and forth. I think this is something you guys should do once a quarter.
If not once a quarter, at least twice a year. I think that'd be really good. You know, honestly, I wouldn't mind having you all back in 6 months just to see how the year's going, see what we're thinking, see how things are done, and you know, having this panel here, it's got a lot of diversity. Yeah, Michael, you did a great job putting this team together. We can't take credit for it at all. This was all you, sir. This was your idea.
It's just my fancy locks.
Have us back in 6 months and we can tell you who the SCA world champion is.
That's right. That's right.
There you go.
Oh,
there
man.
You go.
Hey,
well,
one quick question. I wanted to ask Rolf. You know, I know you guys are worried about the SCA World Championship in Fort Worth. You know, if SCA decided to do regional and you take the 5 top people from your region, right? It wouldn't be so many people competing at the Worlds. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you get your golden ticket, you go to your region, kind of like Sam's Club, where they have a local qualifier, then a regional, then you go in, and then you wouldn't have – how many people are they estimating to be?
Oh gosh, last year 300. Well, last year because we had the Worlds coming in, you had 300 plus.
Right.
400.
This year you're probably
hard to say,
right?
Well, even if you narrowed it down to state championships, and then how are the states almost like the Jack, where you know you don't do a draw, but the state champion goes and cooks. There's your champion, and then you know each state there's your world.
Well, I would tell you, I think that it's going to have to be, and we'll see how they, just my pure opinion, it has to be a combination of both. Because the cool thing about SCA is if you win, you're in, and you have as good a shot as anybody of winning that world championship. So if you get your gold, so we don't want to take that weekly opportunity to get in the game.
Right.
Now, as far as team of the year, I think it has to be something that's more equitable overall. So again, Sandy Brown, Tim Brown, fantastic cooks. They had the time, they had the means, and they had the talent to do what they did. You know, we would never. Robin and I, as good as we've done this year, it's. And I'm going to be very frank. It's stunning that we are that close. I mean, we are probably 20 contests away from the guy above us, and we still got a chance to crack top 25.
Yeah. You know,
if you balance that whole thing out, who knows what could happen?
The other thing that the SCA could also look in from outside in from KCBS is take something that the Jack did. You get 7, you win 7, you're automatically going You know what I mean?
I kind of really like the winning you're in, and I'll really crack the egg open here. I'm not a huge fan of the pass down, but that's just me.
and I agree with you because I mean, the Jack doesn't do the pass down. No, they do that if it's if it's an international team. But
right,
I mean, that's the only stipulation. But I agree. If either you win or you're in, and that would keep it to world champions.
But there's so many people that get in, and that is the beauty because every week there's somebody that gets in the game.
Yep.
You know? And I'm going to back up on the pass down thing now that I got just a little bit of a brain fart there. It is cool that everybody gets in. You know, it's all right.
That's the only way I'm going to go on and take it if I compete against you and Tiffany.
And we got to compete against Rob, and you should be us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really hoping they weren't going to show up in the last competition. I was like, dang.
But no, it's the cool thing is SCA. Everybody gets in. You got a chance to get in. But yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Right on. So
I need a couple state classes before I decide to go on my own here.
Anytime, my friend.
You can go away to Kansas City.
Hey, anytime, come back. Anytime, fun.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Michael, you got anything else, sir? This was your show.
I do not. I think our panel has exemplified itself. Nobody down drunk yet. I think it was great.
It was fun.
Awesome.
Great time.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on here. Michael, thank you again so much for putting this whole thing together. This was one of our favorite shows yet, and a great way to round out the year. And Dave, you got anything, sir?
No, I thank everybody for coming on. It was great.
I didn't know Dave was on the show. He hadn't said
Yeah,
anything.
so quiet tonight. I see enough. Seems like every time I try to climb in, someone else is talking. So I was like, you know what?
And Jake, I'm going to make you wear the hat to the class.
I'll wear that hat anywhere. So, well, you all have a happy new year, a safe new year. Rolf, Robin, good luck. Everyone in the comments, happy new year. Thank you guys so much for making this kind of what it's turned into. And I'll extend the invitation. If anyone's got any ideas or anything like that Michael has, man, just message us. Let us know. We want this platform to be for our Mid-Atlantic family, and that's what it's kind of turned into. And this is a great example of it tonight. So I'm done the crown. I think it's time to call it a night.
All right, guys.
Okay, kids.
Thank you.
Merry New Year.
Merry New Year. Bye, guys.